There is in the Photoshop activity what we call photo repairing or reconstruction or making better than it was when you first picked up the old photograph. Usually these are images that were taken quite a while ago, and over time they've been bent or cracked or scratched or torn, and you want to get them back into good shape, and Photoshop allows you to do that. The one thing you can't correct is if the photograph is out of focus or been underwater or something that's taken away the actual image. But if the image is reasonably strong, you can correct it pretty well. Now I've got two examples of pictures here I want to show you. This is a picture of a little girl in a nurse's costume, and this is the before version, and here's the after version where you've cleaned up all the scratches and fixed things as best you can. Here they are side by side, where you can see the major bend and crinkles in the paper of the photograph have been taken out. There's a little camera, or not a camera, but a light break in here under the film that has been taken care of over there. And the scratches and the dents and the things have been eliminated. These are two white posts that are part of this picture. You probably could crop it down and take the white posts out and not make them so obvious on each side. But that's the picture. Also started off sort of a yellowy color. We took it to black and white and then gave it a bit of a sepia tone back to it. But it does fix the picture a little bit. And the second one I want to show you real quick is the little boy in the sailor suit. There's the original picture. Here it is finished with the lines gone, and the lightened it up somewhat. And to see that little guy together, one and the other, is a lot of wrinkles, a lot of bends, a lot of folds taken out. And you replace what's there with like information, like tones, like textures. You can see the bench had to be somewhat repaired, and his socks had to be done. There's a light on the top and darker on the bottom, and you had to go with that. And in the back wall is painted, or it's a swirly paint. It's not exactly clean. You can fix it up as you go through cleaning the thing to make it a straight wall without the bends in it, but the way it was painted is still going to be somewhat of a textured wall as you look back at it. Well, let's look at some of the tools you will use to make this work. Now, the girl is brought over. She is an image size. I made it 7 inches high and let the width come with it. It was 5.19, and I took the resolution to 100. And when I saved that, this is what I got. Now, before I even work on it, I probably will go here to the image, and of course I've got a layer here called girl. It's not locked. I took it out of background and made it a layer. Image mode. Now with that I'm going to go over to grayscale. That's going to take it out of wherever it was, and it may have been copied in a color copy system or what, but I'm taking it to grayscale, and watch what happens. I'm discarding some of the information, and I go there and it turns it gray. Black and white. Now that's for the purposes of working the photograph, and then we can give it a little bit of a tone later on. But the main tool you're going to use here is the cloning tool. Now what you're going to do is take the let's talk first about the image adjustment levels. Now I've already corrected this, but you see that here's the black image of this photograph. I mean, it's an electronic thing, but it shows you the darks and the lights and the midtones. If I pull the darks back to the mass of the black, it gets a little darker. If I bring the whites to the mass of the black, then it begins to balance it. And I can go back and forth over here, and the lighter I go, the problematic it gets, but I don't want to get too dark either. So I'll get a little lighter. It brings out a little more detail in the background. Now, having done that, and remember I've got it at 400 DPI now, it's going to be about as good as it can get. The only other thing I would suggest is you could go to filter and come down to sharpen and go all the way to unsharp mask. And when you do that, it gives you a little example of where you're going with that here, although it's pretty large. If I hit the negative, it breaks it down a little bit and I can see. But it adds a little more refinement. I don't say it'll make a unfocused picture better focused, but it makes it a little sharper with that unsharpened mask. And you can even fiddle with the keys down here with the slider bars and see your example get a little too much or a little too little. It just depends on your eye and what you're seeing, but that helps that. And then you okay that and your picture is just a little sharper. Now you take your magnifying tool and you get really close and you can begin to see, all right, there's a lot of noise back in here, black and grays and stuff, and I'm not going to make that solid black, but I am going to use that material to cover up that bend. So you take your cloning tool and you get, I'm going to use maybe like a 45 brush here, about that size. And I'll click away in this box will go away if you click like in the ruler part there. Now, Option key comes down and I want to take the information right above it and put right over the top of it. So when I click again, you see that the plus sign is where it's taking the pixels and the brush is where it's putting them in there. And I'm replacing like for like. Now when I get up close to her, I get right there and I've got a little bit of a line out. See, I took that out so you can't tell the difference. Or I could go under her sleeve a little bit here and remember when you hold down the Option key and you place your target where you want to take pixels from and click once. That makes it your target. Now when you come back up and you want to place it, hold down the Option key again. Don't click yet, but that means you can aim your brush right at that spot. Let go of the Option key and then click and it'll take that spot, and see I took that little notch right out. I just used the edge there to take the notch of the crack. Okay, now there's some white and not so white areas in here, so I come there and take the white and the not so white and go right up to that cross on her chest. There's a black spot there. I don't think that should be there, so I'll just take that out. Now hold down the space bar and move it across, and then get, maybe that brush is a little too big. Let's go back down to 35. Get up here in this gray and take that line, bend line out across there. And there's some darker material there, go there. Even in the cross, get down in the cross a little bit and take that bend line right there and just, you're not going to take it out totally, but you're going to change the tone. Okay, now when I get over here, I've got a little spot there I don't like. I've got one out here I don't like. This whole line here, I don't know what that is, so I'm going to take it down and out. And then I'll take information in that dark area and just rub it right up against, and then start to move across and take like for like. There's something down here I don't like to see, that little fish floating there. Let's go back and look at her. Let's take that little mark out of there, and maybe that little mark right off the top of her hat. Now I'm not going to really play into her face. There's not. You can get bigger and fiddle with it, but maybe that's not such a good idea unless you're really experienced. But you can take out all the little wrinkles and wiggles and things and replace it with like for like. And go down, I'm going to look all the way down here. Let's see, down in her socks there's some problems. There's a scratch across there, so I'll take this and mow that up. And then this information out here, I'm going to go between her legs. And down there where those spots are, I don't know what those are. And get that. Now she has a shadow that she's casting, and there's a scratch or something in that shadow. So I'm going to use shadow material to take care of that. Around her shoes, there's a little bit of specks. I don't know if that's in the picture like leaves or whether it's something that happened afterward. But, clean that up. Now, the rest of the picture, it's pretty obvious now what you're doing. Let's back off a little bit here. Like this area right here where that scratch is, I'm going to go back to a little bit bigger brush. And I can take there's a black line here, and I'll just come over here and line it up and then take that black line through there and then come down into the flooring and use like for like until I get here a little more lighter stuff and take that out. Take that out. See that scratch is right there? Come to the middle of this step and aim it, and then line it up here, and then just come across and take out the shadow and that business. And when you get up in here, there's some dark above it. Use the same tone dark. And the same thing up in here. Now, where that flare is, where the film must have gotten a little more light exposure than you'd like to have it, there's only one way to deal with that, and that's I'm going to get a little, again, a bit bigger brush. Now see, there's a line up in here where that building is. And I'm going to take that line, click right there, and come down where I can see the last of the line without a flare in it, and just recreate that line coming down. And I'll go as far as I can until I start running into the white. Again, there was white there. Notice there's a little bit of a bump right there, so I'm going to come back here and get that part of the wood and set it up right there, and then take that down straight. Then I'll come back that line again and come back down here where it's clear and run it down again. And I'll run it down to where the floorboard actually is, and I'll come over and get some of that stuff. There's a line there. That's probably part of that post, but you could take that line out if you wanted to. There's some stuff here that I'm not sure what it is, so I'll take that out. This is part of the plant. There's a little white spot there I'll take out. But this is a plant or fence, something there. So I'll leave that alone. Same thing over here. It looks like there's a little wire or something to keep people out of it. There's a scratch mark that's continuing from her shadow and into this sort of flowery area. So I'm just going to take flowery area and work on that bend. There's the bend right there that's finishing off, and I'll just clean that down. There seems to be a little piece of film not right here that you can see it's separating, so I'm just going to take what material's there and take it right back out to the edge of my frame. There's a scratch there. Take like for like. There's dark below. I'll take some of that, and you can go through and I'm not going to take the time to do everything, but you can see you can work that down. Okay, so up in here there's other scratches, like for like, the gray, light gray for the light gray, and as it gets a little darker, make sure you're looking dark for dark. Now I went from the gray into the dark to take that scratch out. Now I'll come with the dark here and take out that, it looks like a tear, and straighten out the line right there. I can take this straight line that's here and bring it to here and line it up, aim it, and then go right down through that and clean up that post. Here's another scratch mark from gray, dark gray into light gray, and another post mark there, and maybe just that little gap right there. Clean that out. There's a chair here. I'm not going to deal with that, but I pretty much got it fixed. There's something over here that's not good. Let's get a little bit bigger brush now and come up here and get that scratch right there. And whether I work the rest of the post, it's up to timing and whatever you want to do. All right, now the little girl is pretty well cleaned up, and I can save this as the final deal, except that I'm going to go back and put a touch of sienna into it. So I'm an image and still the same, only one layer here. I would get two layers if I had to take a patch. You know, I wanted to take something over here and just reproduce it over here, but nothing that is necessary for that in this job. Okay, image mode, I'm going to go back to RGB. Now it's still black and white, but it's now in the RGB realm, which means I can go to image, adjust, and come down here into my color balance. And when that opens up, you get this box that shows you can have these sliders. Will add more red or more cyan, or that sort of thing. I'm going to add a touch of red to it and want you to get a little more sepia tone, and maybe throw some yellow. Go the other way of this one and throw some yellow into it, and get it a warm brown. And then that now is a much more better picture image for your scrapbook or for a frame than at least it started out to be. And let me go again to the double, and you can see the difference. Here's the old one with scratches and bends and stuff on it, and here's the new one. So the cloning tool, and to some degree the spot healing brush tool that you can use to sort of, like it's a finger paint, you can melt some things together and get it to be more fluid, but that cloning brush with a little practice can be quite helpful to you. Now again, let's look back at the two sailor boys. I'm not going to take the time to do it, but you can see I worked in the gray I worked these edges all out, cleaned up his socks, cleaned up this bench, and then in the end, I went back to from black and white to color, and had him add a little red and a little yellow and a little sepia to him, and that becomes the finished piece. And it's in a lot better shape than this. Fortunately, there wasn't anything that ran across the little boy's face or the girl's face, so I didn't have to work with that. It can be done. You take enough time and spend enough time zooming in and working it. You can fix things, but the fix here is a lot better than the original. And given the basics that's in focus and that you can deal with it, then it works out to be pretty good repair. So you might want to try that on your own. Take these guys out and just open them up singular. They're in the file as single documents, and see what kind of work you can get done out of that as far as practice. If you have your own pictures you want to deal with, probably you have them in hand, and you're going to have to lay them on a scanner and scan the image into your computer, and then work that image as if it had come from the internet or come from your digital camera. But the scanner is something that you probably ought to learn how to operate or have one. They're not too expensive, but they do allow you to take flat images, pictures or magazine articles or whatever, and get them into a digital image that you can begin to work these over. Impress your family and your friends with, wow, those are great old documents and pictures you got there. And a little practice goes a long way.